It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Good to have you in the studio today. We're going to talk about the Forest Restoration Initiative, otherwise called FORFRI. You've heard that in the news quite a bit. Henry Provencio with the Coconino National Forest. He's the FORFRI team leader. And Diane Vosick, you are the FORFRI co-chair. Welcome to studio.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks.
This means a lot to me. It did before, but I was telling you before the show, my wife and I had just bought a home in Mountain Air. And I was enjoying my coffee one morning, looking out the windows at the ponderosa pines all the way around my house, just loving the fact that I live in the forest now, because that's who I am. I love the forest. And I watched a squirrel jump from my neighbor's house across the street to the next house. He scurried across that and jumped to the next house and the next house and kept on going. And I pictured him as a ball of fire. Bouncing from roof to roof, and it actually got me very concerned. And then I remembered I was doing the show with you. I was on vacation last week, and I remember I was doing this show with you guys, and I thought this is a good time to find out, okay, has Mountain Air, that area, been kind of thinned out and taken care of as we get ready for the wildfire season? Because I know we've had those projects going on, I want to say over the past few years, where I'll get a press release that says, okay, we're going to go out to the forest, and we've got a logging company that's going to come in, and they're going to weed out some of the trees back there. So that is what the FORFRI is. And Diane, I kind of want to go to you first and have you kind of explain what brought the FORFRI about.
Okay, well, the Forest Restoration Initiative is an effort by the U.S. Forest Service and a stakeholder group that can be dissected into 30 different organizations to try and restore forests along the Mogollon Rim. And it's called FORFRI because it's 4 national forests that we're looking at: the Coconino, the Kaibab, the Tonto, and the Apache Sitgraves.
Okay.
It came about, we actually have a long history in the Southwest of trying to restore our forests. And so the FORFRI actually began in about 2009. But before that, we had groups like the Greater Flagstaff Forest Partnership that were trying to protect areas around Flagstaff with thinning. We had the Natural Resources Working Group over in the White Mountains that was working towards restoration there. We also had a bunch of other things that kind of came together to make this possible. We had, going back to Governor Jane Hull, we've always had governors that have had forest health councils that have been advocating for forest restoration. So that we have, a 12-year history of that, 12, 13-year history. We've had the Walla Fire and the Rodeo Chetaskai Fire to really motivate people's interest in this problem and to build the political will to act.
Was that really what got this started, was those Rodeo Chetaskai and the Walla Fire, those massive, huge fires?
It had a galvanizing effect in terms of building the political will, helping to attract the funding that's necessary, and bringing people together around it. Another couple things that happened, we did, under Governor Napolitano, create a statewide forest restoration strategy, and it called for creating a bunch of large pilots throughout Arizona to get to this work. And then in addition, in about 2007, a bunch of stakeholders got together and tried to identify just how much agreement there was in terms of treatment across the rim. As you know, this can be controversial. And we sat down and we really tried to identify how much wood could come out of this area to fuel potential economic activity in the communities, but also how many acres could we agree we wanted to treat. And from that group came this identification of 1 million acres that we could all agree needed treatment across the rim. So that kind of provided the springboard to say, well, where can we do a pilot? Where can we start working big? Because the fires are big, we need to be thinking big.
Right, we need to get on this now and get it going.
So FORFRI also, although we were ahead of the game by thinking big and trying to act big, in 2009, Congress passed a program called the Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Act, and it appropriated $40 million and identified in its first year 10 areas that would become pilots for really doing landscape scale, big, hundreds of thousands of acres of restoration. And we were fortunate. We wrote a proposal. Our project got funded, and 4Fry was off to the races.
So, Henry, what needs to be done out in the forest? We've got some pictures that are going to show before and afters of some of these projects. We've done shows like this before where we show, but what is it that's happening in the forest that is causing such havoc on them?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I think we talked about it a little earlier, is where the forests have really seen massive ingrowth over the last 100 years. And then the policies that we had in the forest over the last 100 years have also influenced how we've tried to maximize yield, if you will. So as we went through the 50s, we were trying to produce a commodity.
Lumber.
Exactly.
Okay.
Trying to build homes. And then as we got into the 60s, you know, we really started to see the effects of a working forest, if you will, or maybe a single focus of providing that commodity. We started seeing some environmental laws coming into place, and really as we went through the 70s, we saw a lot more enforcement of those environmental laws. As we got into the 80s, you know, there was this real realization that in the Southwest particularly, that, hey, we might need to take a bigger look at this, a broader look. And then into the 90s, we kind of really, our industry got shut down. We were primarily focused on large diameter trees throughout, up and through the 90s. And then we made that transition that hey, we can know this isn't sustainable. We can't do this any longer. We had some big fires, such as Rodeo Chetasky and the Wallow. And those just further exemplified the fact that we need to be doing something different here. We need to be getting back to restoring the natural range of variability of these systems. We need to get fire back in the ecosystem playing its natural role, because things are out of whack. And if a 500,000 acre fire doesn't tell you that, well, I don't know that anything will.
Right, exactly. So we're basically going into the forest because I think people, maybe some people don't realize it, but when you look into a forest, you should be able to see a distance back. But I was telling you guys before the show, there were times when I've driven down a Forest Service road where you can't see maybe more than 10 yards off the road, and then you've just got so many trees back there. It's just this black wall basically in front of you. Right. But the pictures we've got coming up on screen as we're showing some, I think we were just going through the years there as we saw the progression of the forest go from this nice view back where you've got the green grass and you can see back maybe 100 yards. Right. And then all of a sudden you can see these little trees pop up. Right. And then they turn into those spindly little trees. Why did we let it get like that? Why did we let all those old scrub oaks and all those little spindly pine trees that aren't, you can't use that for board, can you? A little tiny spindly pine tree that comes up like that? Why did we let it get to this state to where now we got to do something about it? Right. I would say that was largely through fire suppression. It was good intent. We were out there, we were trying to make more boards, more trees, more boards. Mm-hmm. The reality is the limitation in the Southwest is going to be your moisture. Your competition for sunlight. You don't manage the southwestern forest, these ponderosa pine systems that were more open grown like you would a mixed conifer stand like you would in the Northwest. It's a different system. The intent was good, however the outcome's not so good. So I think there was a lot of good intent in the management of those days. However, the results are something that we're dealing with today. And that's those small diameter trees. Fortunately, technology has taken us to a place where we can use small diameter trees. There is value in those small trees for any number of products. Okay. Well, let me grab this hold. We're going to take our first break. This is the DEIS, the Draft Environmental Impact Statement. And this isn't for the whole thing yet. No. Which was a surprise to me. This is for 1 million acres. Right. And Henry and the stakeholders and Marie here, Diane, have all been working together on putting this together. So we're going to come back and kind of find out what they came up with on the DEIS. We're going to take a break. Henry Provencio, 4Fry team leader, and Diane Bosick, 4Fry co-chair in studio today. I'm Paul David. Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Move over, AZ. Arizona's move over law requires you to move over or slow down when you drive past any vehicle pulled over with flashing lights. Any vehicle means emergency responders, roadside assistance, law enforcement, highway crews, even stranded motorists. Ignore the law and you could pay a fine. Remember, every vehicle, every time. Move over, AZ.
Sponsored by ADOT in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're gonna beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David. We're talking about the 4-5 project today. We're going to move on to the DEIS portion of this program. It's and you just said this was a summary, which shocked me even more.
Right.
We have 4 alternatives that
Right.
people can comment on, and we should mention that the comment period started March 30th. This was filed on the 29th of March, and then the comment period ends on May 29th.
That's right. So people can submit their official comments during that time period, and that also gives them standing to participate in the process.
Alternative A, what is it?
Alternative A is our no action alternative.
Do nothing about it.
Nothing. We
So how
just
long did it take you to
walk
write that part of this? That must have been the easy one.
Longer than it should, but actually what it does is it establishes what is our existing condition out there.
Okay.
And what are some of the results of no action, potential results.
Okay. All right.
So,
Alternative B.
Alternative B was our proposed action. So way back, it seems way back, it actually wasn't that far, in about January of 2011, we came out with an initial proposed action to the public. Very broad, very general, and we wanted to hear from the public. We wanted to collaborate with the public to refine that. Mm-hmm. So we did that. Over the next 8 months, which takes us to August of 2011, we came out with that proposed action that you see there.
And what is it?
It essentially proposes treatment close to 400,000 acres of mechanical treatment. So when we talk about treatment, I don't want to deceive anybody. Mm-hmm. This is chainsaws. Mm-hmm. A lot of that might look like logging. It is logging. But some of it's, what we call pre-commercial thinning. So we just all lump that together as mechanical treatment. And then it's probably got close to 600,000 acres of prescribed fire in there. We're going to close or obliterate, if you will, about 900 miles of road. We didn't make any decisions on what the road network is. That was done in a different process. All we're doing is implementing that.
Okay, that's the travel management plans.
Right, that's what I'm referring to. We're going to do spring treatments where those areas that have springs that are really not producing any water. We're going to hopefully try to have those things produce more water. We're going to reduce the trees to what was naturally there through evidence, and some oak treatments. So that's, in a nutshell, is our proposed action.
Okay, and C?
And C is our preferred alternative.
This is the one the stakeholders, we should make that clear, the stakeholders and the Forest Service. It isn't just the Forest Service coming up with this plan. You said 30 stakeholders are involved
correct.
as well. Okay.
Great distinction. And it's not just the stakeholders, mm-hmm. It's all of the public.
Public comment as well.
Right. So as we came out with that proposed action, we received lots of comment back on it. So that's what we developed a preferred alternative out of.
And what's that one?
It's what we heard from the public. That one actually has a little more treatment, so it's 434,000 acres of mechanical treatment. It's where we're cutting trees. 600,000 acres of burning. That's basically 2 prescribed fire entries on the same acreage. And then a lot of the other stuff is just the same. Really what we saw was a desire for more research projects to be implemented.
Like what?
Well, we have for example, we're going to do a paired watershed study. So my day job is working for the Ecological Restoration Institute at Northern Arizona University. And we, along with Dr. Abe Springer, who is a hydrologist, are proposing to do a paired watershed analysis so that as we thin these projects, we can actually see what the water responses are, both groundwater, surface water, which is, of course, of tremendous interest to people. Mm-hmm. What we know is that over time, as these forests have filled in, we're reducing the amount of moisture that's actually infiltrating the soil.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. We lose a lot, believe it or not, out of sublimation from the tops of trees. The trees intercept the snow, and it just evaporates, so it never makes its way to the ground. So actually, this project is so characterized by partnerships, and so we're being funded by the Salt River Project to help put together this paired watershed study that needed to be included as part of the NEPA analysis. But we're excited because we anticipate learning a lot as we go along and using that actually to adjust treatments and improve treatments. It's called adaptive management in the agency parlance, but we anticipate doing monitoring and adaptive management as we go along. And that'll be done with the Forest Service, with the university, and with other stakeholders.
Gotcha. Yeah. Plan D.
So Plan D is another response to comments that we heard. Okay. So there was a smoke. We heard from a lot of folks that they were concerned about the amount of smoke that we were going to produce. 600,000 acres of burning.
You're not going to do 600,000 acres in one day, though, are you?
1 year. 1 year. No.
This would be spread out
over. Not.
We're talking about a 10 to 20 year plan here,
exactly.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should probably get that clear right away. This is 10 to 20 years. This isn't, let's go burn 600,000 acres today.
Yeah, exactly.
Although we have seen that, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
The Wallow Fire,
right.
From satellites, we saw that.
Right, yeah, in just a couple of weeks.
This would be intentional versus unintentional.
Yeah. Right. And so it would be that burning about 40 to 60,000 acres a year, depending, and it would be spread across the entire year. So in the Verde Valley, a lot of folks get impacts, particularly in the winter, because everything, cold air drains
comes down the canyon and settles in the Verde Valley.
Yeah.
Right?
So alternative D, basically, we pulled out of a lot of the prescribed fire treatments. So anywhere we were going to mechanically treat, we're not going to burn. That's alternative D.
Mechanical treatment. Let's make that clear. What is it that we are removing from the forest? You say we're cutting down trees. What kind of trees are we cutting down? How big? That sort of thing.
So our existing condition really has a lot of trees from the 5-inch to 18-inch category. That's where the trees are. That's where the work needs
in diameter, not height.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. In diameter. So that's where the bulk of this work is going to occur, in those 5-inch to 18-inch trees. We'd really like to put ourselves on a trajectory towards essentially getting a older, larger forest. So we're going to target those young to mid-age trees for treatment.
Now, where you're cutting down these trees, we've obviously had to go in there and find out if we've got anything living in there.
You bet.
Mm-hmm. How do you manage to do so? I mean, we're obviously going to have loggers come in, and we discussed this a little bit. There's a company that might come in and build a mill, and that's the plan, to have them come in and then harvest these trees, and we're still waiting to see if that comes to fruition.
Right.
How do they determine when they go out into an area, because I know this is a concern for people, how do we determine that this is not a badger habitat? This isn't the southwestern willow flycatcher lives here, those kind of things.
So we through planning, we've developed a 10-year plan of action, if you will.
Okay.
So based on priorities that were actually brought to us from the public stakeholders and priorities that the forest supervisors had, we essentially established this schedule of treatments. 2 years in advance, all resource specialists gather and we determine what are those needs. How much archaeological survey do I need to do? How much wildlife and what type of wildlife surveys? Weeds. All those different resource specialists, we get together well in advance and determine what are those surveys that we need to do. And if we need to make adjustments, so say we find that spotted badger.
Mm-hmm. Spotted badger, okay. Spotted badgers are lovely.
So then we obviously have a set of protocol that establish what do we need to do for that particular critter.
Okay.
And then we implement it as such.
So it was lumbers. They're not going to be out there just going willy-nilly cutting them all down.
Absolutely not.
And I think it's really important to point out, we often think that, and it's a legacy of perhaps overcutting earlier on, that all this is harmful for wildlife. But if you look at the Mexican spotted owl, the largest take of Mexican spotted owl has been fire. And so when you look at the wildfire and how much of the Mexican spotted owl habitat it burned up, wildlife species are going to benefit from this. We presume because we're cutting trees we're actually going to hurt them. But these species that are here co-evolved with natural fire on the ground and more open forests. And what we're seeing today is not the way the forest actually looked for thousands of years.
Right.
And so one of the assumptions, our assumptions, and we'll be monitoring and trying to watch for this, a lot of these species are going to benefit from this thinning. And but we have some that we need to be very careful about, and that's when they do their surveys and set up the wildlife concerns. But people should just not necessarily assume that by cutting trees you're hurting wildlife habitat. In fact, I would argue just the opposite based on history.
It's better to have some habitat than none. Diane Vosick with the 4Fry co-chair is in studio today. Henry Provencio, the 4Fry team leader, in studio. County Wild will be back in just a couple minutes.
Move over, AZ. Arizona's move over law requires you to move over or slow down when you drive past any vehicle pulled over with flashing lights. Any vehicle means emergency responders, roadside assistance, law enforcement, highway crews, even stranded motorists. Ignore the law and you could pay a fine. Remember, every vehicle, every time. Move over, AZ.
Sponsored by ADOT in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Welcome back to County Wide. We've got just a minute left of the program. We've got some public meetings coming up you want to attend. Well, first one is April 15th next week. There's one on the 16th, one on the 17th, April 20th, 23rd, and May 15th. We'll post these on the website, so if you want more information. Looks to me like each of them, well, most of them are from 6 to 9 p.m. The first one, April 15th, 6 to 9 p.m., that's at the Coconino National Forest Supervisor's Office on Thompson Street in Flagstaff. The closest one for the Verde Valley is going to be on April 17th, 6 to 9 p.m. at the Sedona Fire Department in West Sedona. So if you want to find out more about this, you can go to, I suppose this is on the Coconino, Apache Sitgreaves, Tonto, it's on all those websites.
Right. If you looked at the 4Fry website, just Google 4Fry, you'll get it.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing, is just Google 4Fry. You used your name and it came up with 4Fry.
Oh, boy.
So that's how important you are, Henry Provencio. All right, like I said, we'll put a lot of this on the website. If you have more questions, Google the 4Fry and you'll find out more, and you can read this summary of the much larger report. Diane Vosick, thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Henry, good to see you again.
Thank you, Paul.
That's today's County Wide. We'll talk to you again next time.
Special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's County-wide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.